Dan, I want to ask you one final question to just get your reaction to something, actually. Presently in DC, there's a letter circulating among Democratic lawmakers talking about the next stage of the Trump plan, quote unquote. And in the letter, it envisions some sort of Palestinian state being created at the end of some process by which certain thresholds met. It's very vague, to be honest, what they would see as the threshold for that to happen. But then also the letter, very notably, it didn't seem to mention the democracy or the future constitution of the state or borders and so forth. I'm just curious, your own perspective. Like now there's talk, many countries, for the reasons you point out, are talking about the need for a political horizon. They want this problem to go away. They don't necessarily want to have accountability, but they want to get it off their plate and have some sort of political solution thereafter, which does that. What do you make of this proposal that will create some sort of barely defined state without very clear criteria? And how do you view it in the longer history of proposals like this, which have tried to give the Palestinians some sort of quasi-sovereignty and then call it a day?
Murtaza, this is the problem. I always feel like they're always trying to go around the problem and make Palestinians pay the price for Zionism rather than address the problem, which is Zionism. So the whole idea is like, if you think back, the 20th century was all about decolonization and the idea that we're not going to look down on people and say, oh, you're a good child until you prove that you're no longer a child. And not willing and unable to govern yourself, then we're going to have a government that governs for you. And this is what the Trump plan is about. And this is what this letter in DC is about, is that if you prove yourself worthy of freedom, then we will think about giving you your freedom. But until that time, we're going to treat you as though you're a child. But the real issue here is Zionism. And the real issue here is that there's a country called Israel that has been allowed to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from their homes and homeland. And there's a country here called Israel that has been given billions upon billions upon billions, now trillions, of dollars, in dollars and in weapons, to ethnically cleanse Palestinians and to now also commit genocide. So rather than them looking at you good Palestinians, when you start to behave, we will give you a state, they should be focused on Israel. But instead, it's always the other way around. Like somehow Palestinians have to prove themselves worthy of being good humans, that they can then somehow have their freedom. And it's actually the other way around. So, and it ties back into Sharif's question. When I look around and look at this issue of accountability, the Israeli soldiers are not being held to account within the Israeli system. And they're not being held to account internationally. So the message that Israeli soldiers are getting is that what they did is cool, it's that it's okay, and that they can continue to do anything that they want to do, including killing kids. By the Israelis' own reporting, 83% of the people they killed are civilians. This is their own statistics. And so they can continue to do that. So I think rather than turning things on their head and always demanding a peace process in order to delay, I think they should be looking at the real issue here, and that is Israel. And the fact that Israel's been allowed to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. It's now been allowed to commit genocide. And I think we should be looking at that and trying to address that rather than pretending that somehow Palestinians need to prove themselves worthy of their freedom before Palestinians get it.
Well, Diana Buttu, I want to thank you very much for joining us, for your voice. Diana Buttu, a Palestinian human rights attorney and a former advisor to the negotiating team of the Palestine Liberation Organization, joining us from Ramallah. Thank you very much. We hope to have you on another time.